thanks so much for joining me. So we've got a really cute project to share for you today, and my original design for this was far grander. It had a lid and it looked like a trunk, but then I thought, well, I'd like to transfer it to YouTube, so I've simplified it. I've made it so easy that anybody can have a go. It is a desktop hanging file holder system, and I designed it to house my labels. You can see my labels cut out there. I've just done a 6-page collection of journaling label essentials, and I wanted something cute to put them in. So in here you've got your actual, I've got 9 in, but it would hold more. Your little genuinely hanging file holders, so they open like so. You put your little doodads in, and then, you know, it's a proper hanging system. So they do move, it is functional, you can slide them up and down, and each one hangs on the side. So I've designed it very simply with simple supplies. I'm going to show you how you can make it, and hopefully you can go away and have some fun with it. So get comfy and let's get creating. Okay, so we want to start with a sheet of 12 by 12 cardstock. You can use any colour, obviously, whatever you like. I'm using black because it doesn't show any dirty marks. So what you want to do, and you do these 2 scores on all 4 sides. So the first score is at 1/2 inch. Okay. Take your time, 12 by 12 is quite a large piece. You want it to be right. Okay, 1/2 inch, and then 3 3/4. Then turn it and do the same. 1/2 inch, 3 3/4. Turn it, 1/2 inch, 3 3/4. 1/2 inch, 3 3/4. Now obviously you can do watch my tutorial, see the concept of how the design's made and how I create the parts to make the hanging file folder sections, and make this any size. Use a box that you've already got. You can make the files folders to different sizes by following the process, but watch the whole video and see how it's done. You can either follow my sizes or do your own. Okay, so let me just check this is right. Yeah. So now what you want to do is fold and burnish all of those score lines. Well, I don't suppose it matters at this stage. So at the bottom here, you've got 1, 2, 3 rectangles, 2 small squares, 2 rectangles, 2 squares and a rectangle. Okay, so what you want to do first of all is on the very far right large square there, you want to cut about 1 inch away from this one. Okay, so we're basically reducing that because we don't need it all, but you know, I could have done it in a different way to reduce losing this, but it would be complicated for crafters that aren't used to loads of funky measurements. So I'm just doing it this way, it's easier. And then we're going to go and cut straight across. So we're cutting about 1 inch just into this box from the score line there, from the middle score line, and then we're going to cut across here. Okay. Always cut to the far side of the score line so that you're cutting the score line away. Okay, and right up to there. Okay, now this you can remove. And then where you've got this rectangle here, just notch at the other side of it ever so slightly into the corner where the 2 score lines meet. Okay, and then this flap here, just notch that to make sure you've got that score line out. It's just a gentle notch. Okay. Let me just do that again because I've got a bit of scar line showing. I don't want it. Okay. And then just turn it, and where you've got this 1/2 inch at the bottom, just, you're not mitering like straight across the X's, you're just doing a gentle notch. So just a gentle slope. So you've now got this, you've got a flap now there. Okay. So then what you did here, you want to do here. So on this square here, cut about where that score line is for the centre part, about an inch away, but it really doesn't matter as long as you've got enough to adhere, because these flaps are going to be gluing flaps. So as long as you've got enough, you know, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Okay, so you've cut up there to that score line, just turn it and cut all the way to that score line. Okay, so now you're removing that and you've kind of got a flap there. So what you want to do again is just gently notch, just gently, not massive, there. And then here you're going to do the same, and it's going to remove this small rectangle here when we've done. So just gently notch up to that score line, turn it and gently notch there, and that's removing that little rectangle with your 2 bits that you've notched out. So now this bottom piece has become, it's got flaps on 3 sides. Okay, right, so then what you want to do is you want to just go and you want to do turn it around and do exactly the same thing at this side, exactly the same, just mirror what you've got there, so that you're going to end up with like a cross. Okay, so I'm going to speed it up, try and speed this up a little bit. Little 1 inch flaps here, 1/2 inch flaps, sorry, is just gently notch them, just gently. You're just taking a sliver off, just so that it doesn't get in the way of anything or protrude or anything. That's the only reason we're doing it. Okay, so then you've got this. Okay, so it's a cross. All right, so now what you want to do, let me just make sure I've done it all right. Yeah. Ignore that this bit's ripped here. I've torn that by accident. We'll just ignore that. So what you want to do is on these 2 top and bottom flaps here, tape on the inside. Okay, tape on the inside. So the inside's here, that's the outside. Okay. Tape on the inside. Just going to join that back together. Okay, and here side to side, these flaps here, tape on the inside. So this is the inside, that's the outside. So tape on the inside. Well, that's an awkward angle. Let me turn it around. Hopefully it's still in shot and you can still see. What's that on there? I don't know where I've got that bit of twine from. Goodness me. Let me start again. Okay, get off. Tape on there. Keep it fairly central, the tape, not too close to the cut edge because you don't want it to protrude. Okay, and not over, certainly not over the score line. Right, let me just get rid of these bits. So now on these flaps, you've got 2 there and 2 there. Fold them in and you want adhesive on there. So that's the outside. Okay, I'm going to use slightly wider tape for this. I would suggest using glue, but for the video, you know, I've got to be a little bit quicker, so I'm using tape. I do prefer to use glue, but then you've got your drying time. Glue will hold for longer, okay, but it'll be fine for this. If you've got some tape, it'll be fine. Okay, that's that bit done. Right. So now what you want to do is remove the tape on these 2 internal flaps. I'm just going to burnish it because then it's easier to remove. Yeah, she says, famous last words. And then just these flaps here, just fold them back out of the way. If you've got decent cardstock, folding it one way and then the other way won't matter. I haven't put tape on that one. Folding it one way and then folding it the other won't matter. Okay. So we're folding those out of the way. And we're removing all of this here. Let me just check that I'm in shot because I've got the camera zoomed quite far out. Yeah. Okay, as long as I stay on this white mat, I'll be fine. Right, so remove the tape. Just remember, take your time. I'm doing it really quick for demonstration purposes. When I made my original one, I spent a while making sure it was perfect. Not that anybody's going to see it because it's just for me. Right, so now what you want to do is these here are going to join to these here. So you lift that up and you line it up with the edge of there to the edge of there. We're not lining this up. We're lining this edge with that folded edge there. Okay, to create a box side. Take your time. Okay, take your time. And get it nice and straight. Otherwise you'll have a wonky box. We don't want a wonky box. Oh, not that it matters. There's worse things than a wonky box. Oh. Okay. Alright. So just go back in, make sure you've pressed that. One advice I will give you is if you're using tape, use the best quality tape that you can afford. You know, your pound shop tape, etc. is perfect for card making, but for structural things like this, don't use cheap tape or cheap glue, or, you know, use something decent and then it'll last and it won't fall apart. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're removing the tape on all of these and then they're just going to fold in. It's just to give the edge of the box strength. Okay, so remove your tape and fold it in and press. Okay, remove my tape there. I've got a little bit of tape overhang there. Can you see where it's overhanging? So I'm just going to roll it around and flick it onto there because I don't want tape protruding, or else whatever you put in is going to stick to it, obviously. Okay, so then when we've done this, I will pause the camera while I get my other pieces ready and I'll show you the hanging system and the folders. Okay, but that is the basic starts, and then it's going to strengthen further because we're going to layer the outside with decorative paper. Okay, so that is going to get even more sturdy. Okay, so don't worry. Right, so on to part 2. Okay, so I've zoomed in a little bit for this section. So it doesn't matter which you have as your front or your back because all the sides are even. We've made a box, basically. So what you want to do is you need something to rest your hanging files on. So you want a piece of either chipboard. So this is 3mm chipboard. If you don't have chipboard, you know, cut up a cardboard box or cereal boxes and layer them together. You just need a bit of a lip. Okay, it doesn't have to be massive, but you need a bit of a lip to hang your files on. Okay, you want to cut your piece to just shy of the width of the box. Oh, that way. Oh, this isn't even the right piece. Just shy. Can you see? So you don't want a big gap top and bottom, otherwise your files will fall off. But you don't want it so tight that it's stretching your box. So this one measures, is it 4 1/4? 4 1/2? 4 1/2. So I've literally put this in my trimmer. I've used an old blade and I've cut it just shy of 4 1/2 so that it slides in nicely without stretching the box. Okay, now I've cut mine to 1 1/2, I think 1 1/2. 1 1/2 in depth. They don't need to be very wide. It's just this top bit that's essential. Okay, but sometimes it's hard cutting thick things in small measurements. So 1 1/2 is manageable. Okay, and then what I've done is I've wrapped mine with fabric tape. So this is the fabric tape that I use. I've shared it before and I've just wrapped it with that. You could wrap it with cardstock. If you don't want to wrap it, you could just colour it in with a pen. Whatever you want, just don't have too much bulk on the ends. Okay, you're not going to see the ends, so they can be blank. So if you wrap it, just wrap that bit. It doesn't matter about the ends. Then I've just literally lined it with double-sided tape, or you can glue it. And what you're going to do is you're going to position this. Now you'll see where we've folded over the 1/2 inch, okay, that is now going to be your guideline, and you want to glue it just under where that just on where that 1/2 inch finishes. on each side. Okay, so I'll do this one and then I'll show you me quickly wrapping the other one. And then if you want to fast forward, we will move on to the making the folders. Okay, I've overlapped that tape, so I might struggle to get that off now. Hold on a minute. Let me do it from this side. Come on, you slippery little sucker. There we go. Okay. So you might not be able to see this, but I'm going to stick it, obviously, lengthways, just underneath that 1/2 inch lip. Okay, and you want it as straight as you can. Okay, straight as you can. So you're using that as your guide. Okay. And then you will do the other one at the other side. So I'll quickly show you how I've wrapped it. So I've the little thing. Right, so now I'm going to grab my stuff together and we'll make one of the little file folders to show you how to make them. So the little file holders are cut to 4 by 8 to fit my size. Obviously, if you're making your box a different size, take the concept and adapt it to fit. 4 by 8. And we're going to score at 1/2 inch. Or is it 1 inch? No, 1 inch. Then 4. Yeah. Then 7. I had to think then. So basically, you know, it's 8 inches wide. You're scoring it in the middle and you're scoring each end at 1 inch. Okay, it doesn't get any easier. Okay, fold and burnish. Now, what I will say is, don't skimp on this 1 inch measurement here. If you think, oh, well, I could do that at 1/2 inch, don't. Because I've tried it and it needs to be at least 1 inch for it to work right. Otherwise, you struggle. Okay, so don't skimp on that bit. Have 1 inch each side. Okay. So what you want to do then is put some tape. Okay. Close to the cut edge. Okay. And you need quite a decent gap between the tape and the score line. Okay. And I suggest tape for this. Don't use glue, and I'll tell you for why. Because you don't want to glue in the next part. You want the next part to be movable. Okay. So that's those. And then for the next part, okay, so for the holders, we're using these. These are obviously barbecue skewers, cheap as chips, really handy to have in your craft room for a lot of reasons. Right, so what you want to do is just measure between the lip. So about, because sometimes my original ones I cut at 4 1/4, okay, but sometimes you just need to just do one and play with the sizing and see how it fits, because it depends on the width of your cardstock. Sometimes how you've glued it together can affect it. So I'm going to cut mine to 4 3/8, okay, 4 3/8. Then I'm using these wire cutters here. You can use old scissors. It's just thin bamboo. So hopefully, and then what you want to do is grab your box and see if it fits on your little, yeah, okay. So 4 3/8 is fit. But I would say, you know, yours might not necessarily be 4 3/8. Your cardstock might be thinner than mine or thicker than mine. So measure it, do one, and then cut them all the same. So we're at 4 3/8. Okay. So 4 3/8. It's about there. And you're going to need to check every single one Don't just assume they're all going to cut perfect, because they might not. Let me have a look. Yeah, that's 4 3/8 is pretty good. Okay. Because your box is still flexible until you've got your file folders in and your paper on, you know, you might need to just adjust. Now, if you're a little bit big, if it's a little bit too big, just get a nail file and just file it off, yeah? Don't try cutting tiny slivers with these, because you'll just split the wood. And I know, because I've done it. So the easiest way to get it down, if you're just a little bit off in your sizing, is to use a nail file. And I'm just going to double check again. Yeah, that fits fine. Okay, so then what we do is, we don't want to see the black ends. So I've gotten a sharper, and I'm just going to cover the first, I don't know, 1/2 inch to 1 inch with black pen. You don't have to. Okay, you really don't have to, but you know, devil's in the detail and all of that palaver. Oh, apparently. Okay, and if you get yourself a production line, so I made my box, then I made all of my little hanging files, then I made all of these, then I constructed them. Okay, let me do that one as well. I wouldn't advise dipping them in paint, because it might not dry nice and they're not going to slide as easy. Okay. Just use a pen, or leave them as they are. You can also just use something like archival ink, anything that'll dry permanent. Right, so those are your little runners. I just put my lid on my pen. So then now you just want to put these in here. So you're going to take your tape off. You're going to get your runner. You're going to put it along the score line, okay, even both sides. Whilst you're holding it in place, okay, lift this over and adhere it, make sure it's straight, okay. Then get your bone folder or something and crease up against that runner and flatten that down, okay. Now, the reason we've not used glue is because we've now got the opportunity to move these if we want to. Okay, if you glue them, they're going to glue in. If you glue these flaps, use tape. And then the second one, like so. Using my bone folder to crease it right up to the doodah. And that's your little file folder made with your little hanging bits, and then that will go in there. Now, as you fill it up, it'll become more stable, and then as you wrap it with decorative paper, it'll be even more stable. So don't worry if it's a bit floppy to start with, okay? Don't worry about that. It'll be fine once it's filled up, as you can see with mine. Okay, so if I start taking these out of here and putting them in, it starts and gets where it's more sturdy. Just make sure you do check the measurements of your dowelings, because like I say, yours might be different to mine depending on the thickness of your card and your thickness of your chipboard, etc, etc. So there's your little hanging file holder. All I've done extra is I've made some tabs on my tab punch board. I've got one of these tab punch boards, and I've added some little words, and then I've decorated it. So go away and have some fun. I hope that you enjoyed that little project, and take care, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.